Lolita, Nabokov's classic novel of a sick, perverted man who steals the childhood and innocence of a 12-year-old girl. From the plot alone, Humbert, the protagonist of the novel, seems to have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. He rapes a young girl, keeps her in captivity, and kills her former lover in revenge. However, Nabokov somehow manages to portray Humbert as a victim of poor circumstance, and even provokes sympathy from the audience. Nabokov's powerful command of English gives rise to the main theme of Lolita, the power of language. Throughout the novel, Humbert constantly justifies his evil actions, and manages to do so successfully. In the hotel scene where he first has sex with Lolita, he explains how it was not he who seduces Lolita, but rather she who seduces him. He states, "I'm going to tell you something very strange. It was she who seduced me." Nabokov on page 140. From that point, he gives a very skewed account of events. However, his argument is valid, and taken at face value, allows the reader to justify Humbert's actions. Here, Nabokov's command of language clearly shows how language can cause an audience to feel sympathy, even for a man who just raped an innocent 12-year-old girl. Additionally, Humbert refers to the audience as ladies and gentlemen of the jury, often begging the audience to judge him fairly and excuse him for his pedophilia, on page 9. This is important because he forces the audience to consider him as something other than what he truly is, a perverted monster. For some of his more inexcusable actions, such as paying Lolita to stimulate his genitals in a school setting, he simply states that it was inevitable and he could not resist temptation. "I simply had to take advantage of a combination that I knew would never occur again," he says on page 210. Again, he attempts to justify an unjustifiable action and manages to provoke some sympathy by using flowery language and appealing to the audience. Overall, Humbert is a prime example of the unreliable narrator, allowing him to portray events in a manner that makes them relatable and justified. Nabokov's use of language also produces vivid images in the reader's mind, displaying the power of imagery. This is done best with the relationship between Lolita and Humbert, specifically the scene when Humbert gets excited when Lolita sits on his lap for the first time. As an example, he writes in his diary that he cautiously increased the magic friction that was doing away, in an illusional, if not factual sense, with the physically irremovable but psychologically very friable texture of the material divide, pajamas and robe, between the weight of two sunburnt legs resting athwart my lap, and the hidden tumor of an unspeakable passion, he says on page 62. In this scene, Humbert describes a simple scene, a girl sitting on his lap, with advanced vocabulary and syntax so as to portray his infatuation with Lolita. He essentially writes that he attempted to have more physical contact with Lolita, while hiding his erection and the desire to ejaculate. However, he only does so subtly and with flowery language, enhancing the portrayal of the scene. One other time when Humbert uses imagery to enhance the plot is his definition of the nymphet. He gives an extremely detailed account of what he considers attractive, giving an age range of 9 to 14 years and qualities such as grace and insidious charm on page 17. This implies that Humbert is completely immersed in his sexual fantasy for children to the point where he has an extensive definition of his nympholepsy. All in all, Nabokov's masterful use of imagery through Humbert's character serves to enhance the plot and character development. Nabokov's imagery and portrayal of the unreliable narrator through his command of the English language serve to give meaning to Lolita. Through his imagery, he describes scenes in immaculate detail, allowing the reader to picture the scene accurately and vividly. Through his use of the unreliable narrator, he portrays Humbert as a victim of circumstance, pardoning him of his crimes and evil actions. In the end, Nabokov's Lolita serves as a reminder of the power and influence of the English language.